I don't know if I can
Mike.
mute.
Mute Mike.
Okay, so as we record this episode, there's a lot of talk in the media and on social media about the economy, including cost of living pressures, inflation, interest rate hikes, all of these things that are putting pressure on families and businesses alike. It's kind of hard to avoid the doom and gloom right now. And if you're feeling the pinch in your business, you may be tempted to wrap yourself up in a blanket and hide yourself away from the world. However, as our guest today will explain, when times are tough, it is not wise to reduce your marketing activities. And in fact, you need to be showing up now more than ever. Our very special guest today is Fiona Johnston from Peach Business. Fee is a chartered accountant, business strategist, and small business diehard. Fee is a words and numbers person who loves creating business strategies, financial roadmaps, and business plans that align her clients' life design with their finances. Fee believes that small business can change the world and is on a mission to get money into the hands of good people. Welcome, Fee. It is so lovely to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Krishla.
Now, I am flying solo today. Clem has been called off to another engagement, so this is going to be a little bit different than usual. What prompted this episode was an email that you actually sent out a little while ago about why you shouldn't pull back on your marketing during tough economic times. And of course, I read that email. It really resonated with me, and I thought, what a great idea for a podcast episode. Because as we know, marketing's a non-negotiable in your business at the best of times, but when that economic shit hits the fan, marketing is often the first thing that people cut from their budgets or from their time investment. And would love to know your thoughts on this. Why are people doing this, and why is it short-sighted or a knee-jerk reaction in your opinion?
Thanks so much for the question and inviting me on. And before I answer, I just would like to acknowledge that I am on Wurundjeri country, and that is part of the Kulin Nations. And I wish to acknowledge those people and elders as the traditional custodians of this place that I'm on, and pay respects to elders from those communities and any other elders or First Nations community members who might be listening to this podcast. Now back to the question. Why do people cut their marketing when times are tough? One of the things about business that's non-negotiable is risk. Business is inherently risky, and I think what we would really like to do is pretend that we can just breeze our way through without ever taking any risk in terms of risking our time or our money. But the fact is that if we want to be successful in business, we need to either invest our time or our money or both. When the economy is feeling a little flat, like it is at the moment, what happens is people start to doubt themselves, and they start to doubt their own services and products that they offer. And this is sort of what's happening with the economy as well, is that people are hearing, oh, there's bad news, there's interest rate increases, there's cost of living pressures, and people start being a little bit more thrifty with the money that they're spending. And if you're listening to all of that happening while you're running your business, of course you are going to start to contract. Your confidence starts to drop. You start to listen to what's happening in the media. You start slowing down your marketing activities because in your mind you're fighting against this voice that's saying, nobody wants what I've got to offer. The economy's tight. People aren't spending money. They don't want what I've got. I won't bother them with my marketing. And what happens is that people stop inquiring. You start getting less leads coming in, and it confirms this idea that you've got running in your mind that people don't want what you've got. But in fact, the opposite is true. If we think about the economy as a whole, so there's more than 2 million small business owners in Australia, which is such a huge number of people. There's enough business for all of us, but we need to be brave enough to stand up and confidently tell the world what it is that we have to offer and why that is valuable to them. And what happens when we go through an economic downturn or some sort of little blip or crisis is that The businesses that are able to stay true to their value proposition. So what is valuable about what I have to offer, and how do I communicate that value to the right people? Those people are the business owners who are going to come out on the other side of this economic downturn with better, stronger businesses, because they were able to believe in themselves and back themselves. I also think that marketing is a marathon, and marathons are really bloody hard, right? It takes a lot of determination and stamina to be able to maintain the amount of marketing and business development that is required to sustain a long-term business. So, of course, if you're starting to waver a little bit in your confidence, you start thinking about this marathon that you're currently running, which is managing the marketing of your business, and you start to get a bit scared. We start to self-sabotage. And of course, self-sabotage is our body's way, or our brain's way, of trying to protect us from pain. So we're looking at this marathon that's called marketing our business, and our brain is trying to protect us from the pain that it perceives that to be. And so the way we self-sabotage is, I won't write that email that week. I'll stop sending emails because people don't really like what I've got to say. I'm not going to do social media anymore because it just never works. Social media doesn't work for me anymore. I'm just going to sit over here quietly and wait for somebody to come and tap on my shoulder and say they want me to, provide a service or product to them. But of course, we know that marketing is about showing up every week, not just, once a year when you feel like, selling something. So I hope that's a roundabout way of explaining why I think that happens.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, it's definitely a long game, and you can't just sit there and wait for someone to come to you, because that's never going to happen. Unfortunately, if it did, we'd all be 6, 7 figure business owners, right? We'd all be flooded with new clients and inquiries. So I think then, if we were to reframe this, what I'm hearing is we should really be seeing showing up and marketing as an investment in our business rather than a cost, or rather than an expense. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a good thing for people to really be thinking about, for all of us to be thinking about. Is what I'm doing an investment, or is it a cost? And I think when we think about what an investment is something that we put either time or money into that we believe has future value. So the sort of things that I see as investments are a new website, a new brand, putting any time at all into your brand strategy or your content strategy or your social media strategy. Anything that is investing in the future of your business is what I would think of as something that you are investing your time or money into. The kind of thing that I think of as an expense is something that is the cost of doing business. So there are lots of marketing activities that are just business as usual, and things that kind of need to be done week after week. That would be investing in your sort of business as usual social media, your business as usual advertising, if that's something that you're doing. But if you really want to make a big splash with your marketing, you need to really think about what it is that you are doing. I think a lot of business owners spend way too much of their time on business as usual activities, rather than taking that step back and zooming out a little and thinking about things like, what do I want to be known for? Who do I want to make sure knows me? And what impact is it that I want to make on those people? And just doing the sort of churn and burn style of social media or email marketing or other marketing activities is not going to help you to be known for these particular things. Whereas if you're able to step back and think about, okay, well, what big moves do I want to make with my marketing? And how do I make sure that the marketing efforts that I'm putting in are building towards a future asset that I'm creating in my business? So yeah, that's how I think about marketing as being either an investment or an expense.
I really like that. Where then do you think your business strategy or your business model comes in? And how does that, the way that you've perhaps, structured your business, how does that come into play with your marketing decisions.
Yeah, I love it. So, your business strategy is essentially, what are the actions that I'm going to take now in order to have the business that I want in the future? And marketing strategy is the same set of questions. So, what are the marketing activities or behaviors or assets or sort of positions that I'm going to take that are going to allow me to build the marketing that feeds the business that I want to have in the future? So, when we understand our business strategy, which is thinking about things like, who do I want to work with? What do I want to do for them? How many clients do I want to work with per year? What sort of resources do I need to run my business? Who are the people that I need in my corner? And what is the kind of revenue or income that I plan to bring in for my business? So those are the sort of questions we're answering when putting together our business strategy. And those things sit right next to your brand and marketing strategy, which is, I think of brand as the personality that, or the behaviors that your business will have. So, how does my business behave? And the marketing is the kind of execution of, how is it that I want to behave? So, once we understand how many clients we want to work with, we can understand what level of marketing activities we need to do in order to generate that much business. When we understand exactly who it is that we want to work with, of course, that is going to start to make our marketing much more effective, because we'll be bringing the right people into our funnel. The other way that your business model or your business strategy sort of feeds into your marketing activities is thinking about the scale of your marketing and the scale of your business. So, what I mean by that is, if you know that your income target for the year is, say, $100,000, it doesn't really make sense to go and spend $50,000 on Facebook ads in order to bring in $100,000 worth of business. So when we can understand the scale of our business and then work backwards to understand the scale of marketing activities that we need to be working on, we can start to correlate the marketing activities that we do, such as social media, email marketing, and other things. What is the goal that I have in mind? Say I want to work with 3 clients a month. Well, how many social media posts, how many TikTok videos, how many emails do I need to send to generate enough interest to be able to book 3 clients a month? So your marketing activities should be feeding right into your business strategy and your financial goals, because they're twins, or they're sisters, in your
Yeah.
business.
And there might be some people listening right now who have been doing it really tough and thinking, oh, I don't have like any money to invest. I need to make some money fast in order to maybe complete some of these marketing activities. What would you say to that? And what tips would you provide around that? Like, is it better to double down on what we've already got and maybe really focus on one or two key services? Or should we be getting a bit scrappy and putting out a whole bunch of different things just with that goal of making some revenue right now?
Yeah, great question. First of all, there's lots of people that are in a bit of financial uh, distress, is perhaps a stronger word than I want to use, but there's quite a lot of people going through some financial challenges at the moment. So if that's you, there's nothing to be ashamed about. You have not done anything wrong. And if you need to go and get a part-time job or whatever it is to keep the family fires burning, then that is what you need to do to get through this. Okay, so there is absolutely no shame in finding other ways to make a living temporarily. If you've already explored that, or that's not, what you're up for right now, then there's a few things that we need to do. I think what you need to do is get out of your day to day. And that might mean going to a different co-working space on the other side of town and spending the day there, really thinking about what you want to do with your business. Or it might be, phoning a friend and saying, could we sit on Zoom together for the day and really just try to think a little differently about our businesses. So we need to think about the environment that we're in and kind of doing something a little bit different. The second thing to think about is, who is it that I want to work with? So who is my ideal client? And I think making up imaginary ideal clients to me is not as valuable as thinking about actual ideal clients that you've worked with in the past. So thinking about who you've worked with before that was an ideal client and trying to ascertain what was it about that client that made them such an ideal fit for me, whether that was an e-commerce business or a service provider. And if you've got multiple ideal clients in your business, what is it that makes them similar? And how can I start to think about what people with those characteristics or those values or those desires or those problems, what sort of things are challenging them right now? So, what are the problems that they're facing? What are the things that are currently hard for them that they would like to be able to solve? And thinking about, how do I show up with my content that speaks to the problems that they're trying to solve or speaks to the desires that they currently have about improving their lives? And how can I be the shining example that shows them how to solve that problem or how to make their life or their business better? Now, the way we deliver that might need to be slightly different at the moment than usually. So perhaps, for example, you usually run a 6-month intensive one-on-one program to help people with their copywriting. Perhaps at the moment that's not going to be as appealing as bite-sized, 30-minute sessions that they can book on demand? Or is it around, breaking down any of the tools and templates that you have built in the past? And how do I make those accessible to my clients? So if you've got a 10-point framework for blah, 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 how to run an e-commerce business, what can I do with that 10-point, how to run an e-commerce business document that I've put together? Could I create a little mini course, or could I offer a consultation, a short consultation that comes with this extra resource for a small fee at the time of purchase? So there's lots and lots of ways that we can turn our larger offers into smaller offers. And it's not about dumbing down what we're doing or making what we do smaller. It's just allowing people to receive a little bit of the value that we've got to offer, so that perhaps they can utilize that advice or that product or that, time-saving hack to then continue building to a point that they can afford or can see the direct value in some of your bigger offers. So just to recap, going back to your ideal client, thinking about the problems that they currently have or the desires that they have about their life, and then thinking about, how could I deliver something really high value in a way that's accessible and delivers me the amount of money that I feel matches the value that I'm delivering. The final thing that I want to say is that we also need to inspect our own money stories. There's plenty of money in the economy at the moment, and lots of industries are doing very well. Sometimes we get in our own way about this sort of stuff because we're hearing the economy's terrible, there's all these awful things happening. Clearly, nobody wants what I've got. But if people can afford to spend $1,000 on a Taylor Swift ticket that they only had a couple of weeks' notice for, they can afford to invest the same amount of money in improving their business or their life. It's up to us to communicate the value that we have to offer people and then allow them to, come and get it from us.
Oh, I like that example. That is such a good one. Yes, because, yes, as we know, some of those Taylor Swift tickets
Mm,
were a very large cost, not an investment. I mean, I guess it depends how you look at it.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I love that. So taking what you've already got, going back to who your customer is, and yes, I 100% agree. It's great having an ideal customer avatar. It gives you a really great starting point, especially if you've never had clients before. But if you have some real ones that you can draw from, it's so much easier to imagine them, to take their words, their wants, needs, and struggles, to really give you that insight into, okay, well, how can I now show up and serve them, and especially in a way that's going to work for them right now. So I really love that advice, and taking what you've already got and making it accessible to them right
Mm.
now, wherever they are in terms of their own finances as well. I would love to know from you, because you are obviously the finance guru. You've got all the tricks and tips and tools. But what practical tips could you share with our listeners that is really going to help them to future proof their business so that they can be successful now in perhaps these uncertain times, but also going forward as well?
Yeah. How do I summarize my tips here? So I think the first thing to talk about is that, this is a podcast about marketing. So, of course, I want to have a marketing bent on my answer. Marketing is an essential part of your business. And I hear a lot of business owners talking about how they hate marketing, or they can't work it out, or it doesn't work for me, etc. The first thing to realize as a business owner is that you need to fall in love with marketing, because marketing, which is really just communicating the incredible value that you have on offer, it is essential to your business. And business owners who love marketing and who get the right training and support to make sure that their marketing efforts are actually returning a really good return to them, those are the business owners that are going to be successful in the long run. And marketing is not about being popular. It's not about having a huge profile online. It's about connecting with the right people who want what you have to offer. So, really prioritizing the marketing efforts and activities that actually get you the customers that you and the audience that you need to build that sort of long-term business. Another thing I would say about future proofing your business is to really be proactive about money. I see so many business owners being so vague about their money goals and their money sort of stuff. It's sort of something that they want to push into the drawer at the end of the day and not have to think about. A lot of business owners defer their financial decisions to somebody else, whether that's a partner or their accountant or their bookkeeper, or they think of their finances as something that is either too hard for them to understand or too boring. And the fact is that all of those stories are just leaving you without as much money as you need to continue running your business. So, the clearer that we can get about money, the easier it is to make it. So, go and get yourself educated about your finances. There are so many free resources. There's free resources on my website and a gazillion other websites that are helping small business owners to understand their money better. So even just starting with the idea that you are going to start getting better with money would be a really good start. And then in terms of making financial decisions, the most important financial decision you make is your price. So making sure that you are getting support around how you are pricing your business, whether that's from your accountant or from somebody like me or from a course or whatever it might be. But the biggest financial decision that you are making in your business every day is the price that you set. So making sure that you have really interrogated that price and how it actually is going to help you to make the financial goals that you have set for yourself. Yeah, I think that's a couple of really strong things. So thinking about, how is my marketing helping to build the business that I want, and how do I fall in love with marketing? Trying to stop being so vague about money and starting to really connect with money as being an essential part of your business and an incredible tool for you to use for whatever you want to use it for. And getting really clear about your price, which is such an important financial decision that you are making every day in your business.
What would you say to people who say, I don't want to be salesy? Because I hear this a lot.
Just don't be a business owner.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, not everybody needs to be a business owner, number one, okay? There are so many incredible roles out there that don't include you needing to sell. But business owner is not one of those roles. So selling is literally an essential part of your business. That's number one. Number two, if you don't believe that your service or product improves people's lives or businesses, then you need to go back to the absolute start. And that is around, who do I want to work with? What is the problem that I want to solve for them? How do I want to make their life or their business better? And once you are connected to the idea of how you make people's lives better or how you make people's businesses better, selling is simply providing that improvement or helping that person to actually get to wherever it is that they're going. The words you use and the way that you have those conversations with your customers is totally up to you. And it definitely takes quite a lot of practice. And the more sales calls you do, or the more times you try to sell, the better you will get. And the best way to get your sales to be easy is to have really kick-ass marketing. Because if you've got leads coming into your email inbox every day that are already convinced that they want what you've got, there really is no selling. It's already done.
Yeah. And sales is a conversation. It's not you trying to convince or manipulate somebody into something that they don't want or need. And if it is, well, we've got a problem. But
Yeah.
it's you giving them all of the information they need to make that informed decision, to know if what it is that you're offering is right for them, wherever they are in their business or personal life. So I think if you think about it in that way as well, you're just showing up and having a bit of a chat and a conversation and helping them with decision making. You're not forcing something down their throat that they don't want or need.
Yeah, and we have to have a certain amount of love for our ideal clients as well, because if we feel really positive, or love might be stronger than how everybody feels about their clients, but I think if you can feel that genuine sense of care and compassion and love for your ideal client, selling becomes, as you say, an extension of the relationship that you already have with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to help them, you want the best for them, and you know that your product or service is going to help them, at least in part, achieve whatever their goals are. So,
Mm.
yes. So we've spoken a bit about tough times and difficult financial decisions. I'd love to end on a bit of a high note. What, I guess, business silver linings do you see emerge when we do go through tough economic times? Like in the past 20 years or so, we've had the GFC, we've had other ups and downs with the pandemic and all of those things. But I'd love to know from your experience what you see come out of these times, either during or afterwards.
Mm. Yeah, look, I think we don't often acknowledge the fact that as business owners, we have had an incredibly easy 10 or 15 years. And because we didn't know how easy it was, we weren't able to kind of acknowledge that. So I think a lot of us have taken for granted the ease of the sort of modern way of doing business. So then when we go through some upheaval, COVID, one of the impacts of COVID was, of course, lots of new and interesting ways of doing business and delivering services. A very simple example would be how much easier it is to get telehealth support for psychology and medical services, especially for people who are either unable to leave their home or live in a regional area. So that's a huge positive for the way we needed to connect during COVID. During this more sort of a different economic time that we're in now, I think one of the silver linings will be that a lot of business owners who were kind of a little bit half-hearted about what they were doing, or perhaps didn't really have a strong value proposition or a strong kind of a connection to a target client, those kind of businesses will be failing this year. And so what that means for the rest of us is that there will be space for business owners who are really connected to their customer, really connected to their customer's problem and desires. And that means that we can all be better business owners if we're able to get through to the other side. I think there's a lot of evolution and revolution happening in the business world at the moment. We've got ChatGPT coming through. We're still realizing the difference that social media and all of these digital platforms is able to make to our businesses. I believe there's a pretty big financial systems revolution coming as well. So the way that we're able to pay each other is going to get a lot easier. So yeah, I do think that the some of the opportunities that are coming is the world getting smaller and us finding it easier to do business with people on the other side of the world. I think that is something that is going to become easier because of the sort of digital revolutions that are happening. And I also think it probably also opens up a lot of space for that hyper local kind of business where you actually go the opposite way and start to really connect into your local community as a kind of an anti way of doing business to the kind of more global business opportunities that we have. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Mm.
super interesting. I know
Yeah.
there are a lot of changes. At the time of recording this, Twitter has just switched to X, and there's a few different conspiracies and ideas going around as to what exactly that means, and links with global banking and all of that as well. So it'll be so interesting to see even where we are by the end of this year in that space as well. And yes, I totally agree with your point that this will really, I guess, distinguish the ones who are in it for the right reasons, who
Mm.
have what it takes to run that small business, and maybe some of those who it's not really for them. They don't really want to pursue this. They don't have that love and that passion for their business. Perhaps it was very transactional, or they're trying to find a cheat or a shortcut to making money instead of showing up and actually serving their community, their ideal customers, or their clients. So
Mm.
thank you for those insights. Super interesting. We've got a few quick fire questions, but before we get to those, where is the best place to connect with you online? Where do you like to hang out? Are you an Instagram gal?
Yeah, so my social hanging would be Instagram. So peach.business is my handle, and I share lots of different tips and tricks there and share the stories of my own business journey and my clients as well. I love collaborating with my clients and my business friends there. And my website is where you can sign up for my email, which is called the Peach Weekly. So my website address is peachbm.com.au. And yeah, my blog is a pretty great place to check out as well if you're looking for some more business tips and lessons to make business easier.
Excellent. And of course, we will link to all of that in the show notes, as well as you are speaking at the upcoming Digital Marketing Collective Conference
Yep.
happening in Sydney in October.
Yeah.
And what are you speaking about at that conference, Fee?
Can't wait. So yeah, it's the 6th and 7th of October and it's in Lavender Bay in Sydney, which is really great because my sister lives there. So I get to hang with my sister
Oh,
outside of the
nice.
conference. I'm presenting a mastermind called Become a Smug Money Human.
Ooh, I like that. So we will include links to all of those, of course, in the show notes. I was just going to also ask, are you on Threads yet, Fee? Have you
Oh, look,
played
I
over
signed
there?
up for an account and I did literally nothing with it. I think everyone's a little unsure as to whether it will go anywhere or not. I hope it does because I think it's a nice, interesting little platform. I am interested in potentially being on there, but I'm pretty circumspect and very choosy with my time when it comes to my marketing. So, really thinking about the return on effort that I get from my marketing is really important for me. So, maybe threads in the future, but not right now.
Yes, I think there was a lot of enthusiasm in those first few days, and it felt a bit like a house party. And we were
Yeah.
connecting with people that we hadn't seen for a long time on Instagram, which was great. But it's definitely, I heard last stat, I heard they've already lost half of their users,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty wild.
Mm.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few months, whether Meta can regain its footing, whether they open up to people who are not currently on Instagram as well, like lots of sort of possibilities. Be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah, and whether it is, of course, that worthwhile investment of your time. I find I'm over there kind of just chatting to other business friends rather than potential clients at the moment. So I think it's great for those collaborations and connections, and finding potential podcast guests
Yeah.
is kind of what's happening over there for me at the moment. But yeah, in terms of a marketing tool to use for connecting with clients, I'm not sure about that yet either. So yeah, watch this space, I guess. All right, a few quick questions. First and foremost, what is your top tip for busy business owners? I mean, and what business owner is not busy? But would love to hear your top tip.
My top tip is to treat your time like the most expensive resource on earth.
Yeah.
And that's
Love
it.
that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yep. Short and simple. And how did the name Peach come about for your business?
Yeah. So my business started with a conversation that happened in an olive grove in the Grampians, which is in northwestern Victoria. I think I've got that right.
Yep.
I met the founder of Mount Zero Olives by chance at her property in Mount Zero. And yeah, we started chatting about her business, which is all about organic and sustainable food. And she wanted to work with me. By the time I got back to Melbourne, I'd already formulated this idea that had been brewing for a long time in the back of my head, that I wanted to start a consulting business working with purpose-led business owners. And that conversation was the catalyst. By the time I got back to Melbourne, I knew that it was going to happen, and I knew that the name needed to be a word that already existed, something that felt very organic and natural and sustainable, because that's the way that I do business. The word peach popped into my head in the middle of the night. I called my graphic designer friend who was with me in the Grampians and said, I want you to create me a logo and I want it to be called Peach. And that's the moment that she reminded me that she grew up in a peach orchard. And I had completely forgotten about that, and it just felt like the stars aligned, and it's been Peach since 2010.
Oh my goodness. That's cool. I like that. And in my
Yeah.
mind, you are Fee Peach. Like
Yeah.
that's your name.
I think a
I have
lot
to
of people
remind
think my
myself.
name is Peach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would also make sense, right?
Love it.
Now, I know that you are a big live music fan. What's the
Yes.
last gig that you attended?
Oh, it's very hyper recent. I saw Dan Sultan on Saturday night at Kindred
Oh,
Studios in Yarraville. For those who don't know, Dan Sultan is an incredible artist. He's an Indigenous artist who actually grew up in Footscray, which is where the gig was. So that was a nice coming of age. And it was so beautiful to go to an intimate show for an artist that's such high caliber. It was a 250 person gig, and I had the pleasure of watching his mum watching him, which
oh,
was just,
cute.
yeah, a really beautiful moment of watching her kind of, take in the beautiful sound coming out of her son's voice and the instruments he was playing.
Ah,
Yeah,
that would have been so nice because it's like his home turf, right? And
yeah,
I'm sure there would have been friends and people he had maybe grown up with as well attending. So, it would have been such a good vibe.
yeah, it was.
Amazing. All right. Last little question for you. This might be a bit tricky. Um, can you recommend who are some incredible small businesses? Because I know you're a big small business advocate, so it might be hard
Yes.
for you to narrow down, but give us
How
a
do I narrow
few
down?
people that we absolutely must be following on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Okay. You absolutely must be following Campaign Del Mar, who is one of the most incredible marketers I've ever come across. Obviously, you should be following the Mad Marketing Mums podcast and Krishla's Shall We Social. I love your content. I actually think it's really very punchy and interesting and resonant. A couple of other brands that I might like to call forth would be my favourite fashion brand, which I'm wearing now, which is Made 590. They make all of their clothes in Australia and they stock sizes from 6 to 30. So, sorry, 6 to 26, which I absolutely love. Who else could I bring forth? Who's another quick person that I might bring forth as a small business to follow? I'm really on the spot here, aren't I?
I'm sorry, I
Um,
know. Hard to think
let's
of.
go back to my founding conversation of Peach and follow Mount Zero Olives. I've been their client since 2010, or they've been my client since 2010, and really proud to still work with such an incredibly ethical, sustainable business that employs local people and really showcases the incredible produce that is made in the soil of this country.
Amazing. And the Grampians is such a nice area. Oh my gosh, we went
Yes,
camping there last year for a bit. And yeah, I was like, I want to come back here the moment we left. Like, I just loved it up there. So
great.
awesome. Oh, thank you. That's some incredible inspiration there. We can go check out those Instagram accounts. I'll go find them and link them in the show notes for anybody
Oh,
listening so
that's
you can
awesome.
find them easily. But thank you once again, Fee. It is always a pleasure chatting with you. I've learned a lot. I've got a lot of notes scribbled down here as well. Thank you so much for being here and for taking the time. And yeah, what's next for you? What's coming up other than the conference?
Yeah, look, I've got, the conference in October. I'm speaking at a few things this year actually, and I am planning to make some pretty big changes with my business next year. Think some much more premium offerings, working with less clients, which is how I know I can do my best work. I'm probably going to be launching a mastermind style program next year. So, what that means is that for the rest of this year, I've got some really juicy, more bite sized offers coming up that'll sort of take people through to the end of this year before I, do a little bit of an overhaul of how I do things at Peach.
Yep, 'tis the season, spring clean
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
We were just chatting before we started about how I'm going to be doing a bit of a change in my business as well.
love it.
I think it's all part of where we are again economically. It kind of comes back to this where you are really assessing and seeing what's working and looking for those future opportunities. So
Yeah, love
amazing. Well, best of luck with all of that. Of course, we will be watching you very closely on
it.
socials and elsewhere. But yeah, thanks once again, Fee.
Thanks for having me.